Lesson 5.6, Rational Zeros. The rational zero theorem says this: if f of x equals axn plus bxn minus 1 and so on plus c, this just means it's a polynomial. So if f of x is a polynomial and it has all integer coefficients, then we can find all possible rational zeros by the following method. The definition is c over a. C will represent all possible factors of the constant. What we'll have to do is break down all the numbers that we know that would go into that number evenly. And then we divide that by all factors of the lead coefficient, so that very first number. When we think about rational zeros include integers and fractions. And sometimes in the past, we've had both types of answers. So why would we do this? Why do we have to figure out possible zeros when we have other methods in place? Well, when you're not given a factor to test, this is your alternative. Again, when you aren't given a factor or a zero to test, like we were in lesson 5.5, this is the alternative for us. We're going to start by taking a look at how to generate what the possible zeros could be, and then I'll show you how to test for them. When asked to list the possible rational zeros of f of x, we're not actually solving. What we do is we figure out what the constant is and the lead coefficient. Taking a look at that very first term, x to the third power, remember that number that's out in front technically is 1. The constant, we go all the way to the end, and in this case our constant is 12. If c equals 12, we have to think about all the numbers that go into 12 evenly. Here's the kicker. It includes positive and negatives. This means we have to write plus or minus out in front. So let's think about 12. What goes into 12? We know 1 does for sure. It's even, so 2 goes into 12. 3 goes into 12 4 times, so 3 times 4. 2 actually goes into 12 6 times, so 6 is a factor. And then 1 times 12 would mean 12 is our other factor. These are all in positive and negative form, the possible factors for our constant 12. Then we have to divide by our a value, and in this case a is 1. Now when a is 1, this is actually really nice. Your only factors for 1 are positive and negative 1. To list the factors, we write it in fraction form, and then we always simplify. Our possible factors are all interpretations of c over a. So we're going to write plus or minus. We would do 1 over 1. We would do 2 over 1. 3 over 1, and so on. Oops, sorry. There we go. Got to get them to match up here. 4 over 1. 6 over 1. Whoops, wrong color. There we go. And 12 over 1. So it's a lot of fractions to start off with originally. And then we simplify. So here's the nice thing about that, everybody. If it's just 1 in the denominator, that means our possible integer choices are just going to be those integers that we started off with our constant. This means it simplifies to plus or minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. These are all possible zeros for our polynomial f of x up above. Over here on the right, listing the possible zeros for g of x, now notice your a value is a different number. This is going to impact what our rational zeros look like. We start off though with that constant again. Let's take that number at the very end. That is the value of c. Think about all the numbers that go into 10. We know 1 does, 2 will go into 10, 3 and 4 do not go into 10 evenly. 5 does, oh, that's a 5. Let's fix that quick. Make that look a little nicer. And so does 10. Technically, there are both positive and negative options. There are 8 possible factors for c, for our constant. Now, for a, since a equals 4 this time, we have to write plus or minus, well, 1, of course. 2 goes into 4, and 4. All right, so as we list this out, watch what happens with our possible factors, everybody. When we write it out this time, because there are more options for A at the bottom, start with that plus or minus, I'm going to do the 1, 2, 5, and 10 all over 1. I'm going to start with that. So I'm just going to do 1 over 1, 2 over 1, 5 over 1, and 10 over 1. Seems simple enough. And then I'm just going to grab a different color here quick, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 5, and 10 over 2. Now this becomes 1 over 2, 2 over 2, 5 over 2, and 10 over 2. And then I need one more round, so I'm going to pick a different color here, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 5, and 10 all over 4. I know, this is getting crazy. So that means we have to do 1 over 4, 2 over 4, 5 over 4, and 10 over 4. So I hope you wrote small. From here, we have to simplify, so it gets even crazier. It starts off, though, with plus or minus. Now we know anytime the denominator is 1, that's going to leave us with just integers, which is really nice. 1, 2, 5, and 10. And then I have 1/2 and 2 over 2. Well, 2 over 2 equals 1, and we already have that listed, so we don't have to repeat it. 5 over 2, that's a new option. 10 over 2, that equals 5, and we already have that listed, so we can eliminate it. So we actually got rid of a couple of choices just because they were repetition. Now go to that last grouping where the denominator is 4. 1 over 4, yep, we have to keep that one. 2 over 4, that reduces to 1/2, and that's already on our list, so let's eliminate that. We need 5/4, and then 10/4, that reduces to 5/2, so that one can eliminate as well. These are all of our possible factors. If you look at them, there's technically 8 numbers listed, but because of the plus or minus, there are 16 possible factors. And I'll show you down below what we do with those choices. When the directions say find all real zeros for a polynomial, we're going to include our possible rational zeros step up above. Taking a look at this function, f of x equals x cubed minus 8x squared plus 5x plus 14. If we think about what we've learned so far in this chapter, grouping might be a nice way to start it. But when you look at x cubed minus 8x squared and then 5x and 14, we're not going to be able to come up with common factors that really have anything in common. That means that grouping isn't going to be an appropriate method for us. I also don't give you a common or a factor or a zero to test. That's what will indicate to you that we have to do that rational zero option up above first, and then I'll show you how to test them. So, step 1, list the possible zeros. And we do that C over A rule. Whoa, that's a 0 and an S. I tried doing a combo out of that. Now remember, C are all the factors of the constant, which in this case is 14. We have to include plus or minus. All right, what goes into 14? We know 1 for sure. It's even, so 2 goes into 14. 2 times 7, we know that. And then 14. I think those are our only choices. And then the nice thing for this one anyway is that our A value is 1. So that just means plus or minus 1. This is going to be helpful for us when we list our possible choices. Our factors will then include plus or minus 1 over 1, 2 over 1, 7 over 1, and 14 over 1, which means they're all going to be integer choices for us to test, which is very helpful. 1, 2, 7, and 14. So that's step 1, just kind of listing out what your possible options are. Now, if those are technically the 0 choices for us, we'll test them just like we did in lesson 5.5. We're going to test them with synthetic division, where we take all of the coefficients, and if it's a 0, if it's a 0 of the function, then we should get 0 as our remainder in synthetic division. Now, it doesn't matter which number you start with first, but remember there are positives and negatives. I like to start with smaller numbers, but you can start with any of those 4 choices, or any of those 8 choices technically. There are 8 options up here, but I'm going to start with positive 1. So if I put 1 in the corner, and then I have to take a look at all the coefficients in our original polynomial. We have 1x cubed minus 8x squared, 5x, and then 14. Our goal is to test with synthetic division and get 0 as our last number. If we drop down 1, 1 times 1 is 1. That goes in the next column. Negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. Negative 7 times 1, we know this. 5 plus negative 7 is negative 2. 1 times negative 2 goes in that next column, and we get a remainder of 12. Since it isn't 0, that means it's not a factor. Okay, so if positive 1 doesn't work, let's try negative 1 and see what happens. It's literally kind of a guess and check. So this section might take some space up on your paper. It might take a while before we find an actual 0 that works. All right, we're going to keep those same coefficients, 1, negative 8, 5, and 14, and we'll try synthetic division again. Drop down that first one. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. I'll put that in the next column. Negative 8 plus negative 1 is negative 9. Negative 9 times negative 1 is positive 9. 5 plus 9 is 14. This is looking hopeful. 14 times negative 1 is negative 14. And we have 0 as our remainder. What this means is that x equals negative 1 is one of the answers to our final solution, to find all the real zeros. So that's step 2, figuring out at least one 0 using synthetic division. Now we're on to step 3. We're going to solve what's left over. And what do we mean by what's left over? We mean the quotient. Remember, when we did synthetic division, the numbers down below represent the coefficients for our quotient for the division problem. The 1 is going to coordinate with 1x squared because it's always one less degree. Minus 9 is minus 9x, and then the 14 is our constant, plus 14. If we're solving, we know we need to set this equal to 0. Now that it's quadratic, we can hopefully factor. Can we think of 2 numbers that multiply to get positive 14 and add to get negative 9? I think negative 2 and negative 7 will do the trick. If we factor this, x squared splits up into x times x. Minus 7 and minus 2, they can be written in either order. But remember, this equals 0. If we split them up and solve them separately, x will equal 7. And x will equal positive 2. Last but not least, let's list our final answers. The zeros to our cubic function include x equals negative 1, that first one we found, and then the other 2 where we found them by factoring. And that's the game plan for lesson 5.6. We'll complete the next example in class.